Did you know that if you do not include The Last of Us, this is only our second zombie movie that we've covered in all of Talking Horror?
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
That's so lame. Are we
Wow.
even a horror podcast?
I don't know.
Right.
Turn in our horror badges?
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid. See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things, hearts all around, and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Woohoo! Welcome, everyone. Also, happy Black History Month, everyone. In true Black people fashion, I was late to this podcast, so there's that. It's a fun time, but here we are. So excited to discuss this movie. This is such an important movie in the horror movie catalog, but specifically for Black people in horror. Today, we are talking about the 1968 independent horror film, Night of the Living Dead. Ooh. They're coming to get you. So exciting. So I did not know that this was an independent film, so that was exciting to find out. And this was directed, photographed, and edited by one George A. Romero, and it was written by Romero and John Russo, excuse me. And it stars Dwayne Jones and Judith O'Dea. And heavy spoilers for everything that is Night of the Living Dead. You can watch this on Max, formerly known as HBO Gabriel, but now Max. And
I forgot. Every time you say, like, you can watch this on Max, I'm like, oh, that is what it's called.
It's what it's called. Yeah. But formerly known. It's like when I see everyone on social media saying, like, X, formerly known as Twitter, you know, like.
Ugh, no.
It's still Twitter. It's still Twitter. I'm
Twitter.
sorry.
Right, exactly.
Gross.
So, Jamie, hit us with those trigger warnings for this movie.
Yes, this is a movie about dead people coming to life and eating corpses and people.
I think you mean ghouls.
Ghouls.
Oh, yes.
They only say
Because
ghouls.
They don't say the Z word. But I'm gonna
They're
say they're zombies. Sorry to burst your bubble, people of the internet with your strong opinions. But yeah, so there is scary, disturbing people who are chasing people relentlessly, some of which are clothed, some not so clothed.
Some not clothed.
There was tush in this film. There was tush.
Yes.
I was taking a note, and then I think Brian was like, "There's a tush," and really captured my attention.
Yes.
There is, talk of and representation of cannibalism, eating of insides that have made their way to the outside, and consuming those bits. There is Molotov cocktails, fire be throwing, guns.
So much fire.
Yeah, lots of fire because the ghouls do not like fire. Child death, lots of adult death. Again, guns,
car accidents,
gun death.
Car fires,
explosion,
really,
and
tense radio,
and then like
announcements,
and TV.
Yeah,
and then like a very disturbing like ending. Mass,
yeah, I mean that's probably the biggest
bodies.
Yeah.
It's So you're in for a great time, guys. If you want to watch
cheery.
a very cheery, black and white, very 60s-esque in filming movie, which I'm sure we will discuss that as well. If that is your vibe, take a gander and see if your opinions match our opinions, you know? Let us know what you think about it. So before we get into everything else, producer Brian, please give us some words.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, YouTube. If you're listening to us, you can find us on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can just listen to us if you wanted to on podcasts. But you can also find us wherever you get social media. So things like Twitter and TikTok and Instagram at Talk Horror Pod. We're reviewing other movies there, so you can check all of that out. Talk Horror Pod.
Yes. Fantastical. Have you guys watched anything new this week?
No, not really, but we did catch up on True Detective season 4. There's only one episode left. It's only 6 episodes. And it's
very
great.
creepy.
It's really creepy and great.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
have to get into it.
It's
Yes.
I find the basic mystery plot of it is not predictable, but there are some things that are like, yeah, of course this is what's happening and whatnot. But for my money, the characters are so interesting and engaging that all of that built up around, the plot definitely works for me. And I'm excited to see how they tie it all together at the end of the season series.
Nice. Love that. Well, I feel like we need to talk about this because it's current events. Can we talk about Usher at the Super Bowl just real quick?
Yes.
How did you feel
I had a
about
great
it?
time.
Great time.
It's wild. He really has so many bops. And I know that the Super Bowl they only sing like literally a line of a verse or like barely half of a chorus. But like Brian can attest, I knew all of the words to every single song that was played and sung.
True.
That's amazing.
And yeah, he really has all the bops. I think that everyone was like super convinced that Yeah was going to be first. But
yes.
I thought that was so funny because I'm like, well, maybe, but also like that song's not just him. He's probably not going to start with other people
with
on
guests.
stage.
Yeah.
So like he's going to sing something that's just him, and then like the guests will come out and accompany him with things. And I like the way that they did it. I like Alicia Keys's piano.
Fantastic.
Looked like clearly I don't wear fancy shoes or heels, but whether Louboutins. It looked like a Louboutin. It was like that same shape and like the bright red.
Like red bottoms. Yeah.
I was so pleased when they sang My Boo.
Yes.
So pleased. Was really everyone my whole Twitter feed was like lost it when Ludacris came out, which is like, yeah, you only see him in the Fast and Furious franchise now, so it's great to see him back on stage and performing
wearing like an
with,
anime character's outfit.
Oh my gosh, that armor, yes, fantastic.
But I mean, it's really kind of just nice. The one of a few things that's nice about getting older is that the Super Bowl halftime show is marketed to us now.
Yeah, for sure.
Very true.
In the saddest of ways, but yes.
Yeah,
but also,
it was great.
like you had like Lady Gaga when she was in her prime, though, like doing it, and
yeah, I mean they just get big stars, but like recently with like Lady Gaga. And who Rihanna was last year.
For sure, yeah.
And then sorry, I meant Rihanna's pregnancy announcement.
The Weeknd was a weird one.
The Weeknd stunk. I hated that one. But the rappers a couple years ago was great. Like Snoop Dogg.
Oh, like Eminem and Dr. Dre. And,
that was super fun. I mean, it's always a good time, and luckily, the Super Bowl got interesting in the end because the first half was boring.
That was boring.
Yes. Well, I didn't know anything about what was happening, I was going to say performing. Wow. Who was competing? But it was in the middle of our show, and it
Oh,
just so
sure.
happened that the halftime show was right when intermission started for us.
Whoa.
Wow.
So it
What
was
timing?
I know, like what timing. It was fantastic. So we were
Yeah.
all just like huddled up
literally you have 15 minutes, and it was like exactly 15 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. We
Damn.
probably held for longer than we were supposed to because
Right.
we were just like huddled up in the physical therapy office watching her TV. And it was a really good time. But it was really
Oh,
nice
that's
to
great.
just see that.
Lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. It's good timing.
Hmm.
All right. Well, let's get into everything that is Night of the Living Dead because I'm so excited to hear you guys' thoughts about it. So we need a plot summary
Oh, I
of
forgot.
this.
Yeah.
What's the plot?
I don't think it'll be hard. There's not much that
No.
happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Straightforward apocalypse, you know? That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do this.
All right. So, producer Brian, there are 2 minutes on the clock for you. It is your job to tell us what happened in this film. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Ready, steady, go.
So, two siblings, Barbara and Johnny, go to a cemetery in Pennsylvania to visit their father's grave, and then somebody attacks them. They kill Johnny, and then Barbara runs away. She finds a house, and in the house, she finds a guy named Ben. Ben arrives, and then they basically find a gun, and they start to board up the house. And then they find that there are already people in the basement of this house. There's this like younger couple. There's this man Harry and his wife and their young daughter. Their young daughter is sick. She has already been bitten, and all of them basically start arguing about what the best plan is. Ben wants to stay upstairs and kind of defend the house and um and have escape hatches like other doors and stuff if they want to leave. And then Harry wants to stay downstairs in the basement even though there's only one door in and out. They find that the corpses are, the ghouls, if you will, are all over the United States. And we find out that we think it's radiation from Venus that's making all the dead people come back to life, essentially. Then they decide to try and get gas for the car, but the car blows up, and killing the young couple. And then Ben goes back to the house, and then the house basically gets overtaken by the ghouls. However, everyone kind of dies in different ways, but Ben survives. And then there's a rescue recovery mission by the locals, the white locals, I should say. Ben is black, and Ben's the only survivor, but they hear something in the house, so they shoot into the house, killing Ben, and then burn his corpse with all the rest of the corpses. The end. Oh, I have a couple seconds left. I'll also add that Barbara is taken by her brother. She finds out her brother is dead when she's been crying the whole time. Like, we have to go and find him.
And that's the plot.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, let's get into our first segment of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
Now, this is you guys' first time watching this movie. This is my second time watching this movie. I believe it was another pandemic watch, mostly because, well, I'll get into it when I get into my likes and gripes. But one of you guys go first and tell me about your experience watching this.
Before we get into it, Nikisha, I have some questions for you because this is realistically, this is the first like horror movie with a black lead. It was a black male lead, and super famous. Obviously, like this it's taking on a lot more than just having a black lead. It has a lot of cultural significance, and then obviously it's trying to say something, whether on purpose or not. It does say something. So, Nikisha, can you talk about like the impact that knowing and watching this one had on you? Also, like, do you remember the first horror movie that you saw that had a black lead that kind of like allowed you to kind of see yourself in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I was introduced to this movie to Night of the Living Dead because of the horror noir
Mm.
documentary
Oh,
that
you yeah.
talks about, yeah, black people in horror movies and, that kind of trajectory. And it always starts off with this particular movie because this is the first like black lead in a horror movie. And so that was what really led me to actually like watch it and experience it for, what it is. And I think it's was important to watch because in a sense no one is asking anything about race in this, and like I
Mhm.
just enjoy movies that just let people exist how they are, and no one is questioning anything that has to do specifically with that, because a lot of movies are like black struggle and black trauma. And so it was just
Hmm.
nice to be like, this is a man, he clearly knows or has an idea of trying to survive, and he's trying to help people, and he seems like he's has everyone's best interests at heart. So it's nice to see that. I will say, when I was growing up and watching horror movies, um two people popped up in my brain. The first is Jada Pinkett in
Scream
Scream, but I know
2.
that she doesn't
Mhm.
survive.
Sure.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, for Scream 2. Um, but I always think of Brandy in I Know What You Did.
I still
Is
know
that
what you did last
I
summer.
Still Know What You Did?
Mhm.
The second one, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because she kind of lasts, throughout that. So I think that was kind of like my first experience of like, oh yeah. But it's nice now to have more movies where there are a variety of races that are in horror and at the forefront of horror. Because when I was watching these horror movies, all that I saw was like the sassy black best friend
Mm.
that is trying to
Sure.
help her, white counterpart, like,
Yeah.
and to her own, you know, um dismay, because then that black best friend is like, I died and so that my white friend could live,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it's just an interesting concept. So that's all that I saw. So it's really nice now to really have, of course we always talk about Jordan Peele and the things that he's done
Sure.
for horror, but just in general, just having, and you know what, I will even say, like, having the Wayans brothers make fun of scary movies in
Hmm.
the scary movie chain. I think
Mhm.
that that's also kind of important too, because they're calling out all of these things in a fun way, but
Sure.
also like there are black people that are leads in that, however way you want to see scary movie, but like it's putting more black people in horror related movies. So that's really
Mhm.
nice
Yeah.
too. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Jamie, would you like to go first of your likes and gripes for this?
Sure. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I liked this movie. I had no expectations. And but like know that it is, this iconic piece of like history. So I was like, give me what you got. I thought that Barbara had a banging hairstyle. That's my first note.
Absolutely.
It just like I don't even know like how her hair somehow like gravity exists, but her hair stayed that way the whole time. And it
The
was
whole
like just
time.
shocking to me. And impressive.
Through all the
So
hits, the falling down, the hysteria,
yeah, yeah.
the hair is still there.
Um uh so I didn't realize, so I have definitely heard the "they're coming to get you, Barbara" line
Yeah.
before, because it's like an iconic line. I did not realize that that line happens in like the first 5 minutes of the movie as a joke, not actually about like what the movie is about. And that kind of blew my mind, because I'm like, wow, I had no context for like when this is said and why it's being said.
Yeah.
And now that I know, I'm like, damn, like it totally like subverted what I thought it was like. I was like, oh, that's going to be a response to like actually what's happening, and it's not. And
Mm.
it's like him joking around with her right before disaster strikes.
Yeah.
Was really fascinating. And kind of like blew me away just to start with. So I'm kind of glad that like I haven't seen this movie. I didn't know how it ends. but I know that line, and so I was like, oh, I'm like all kind of like screwed up watching this. Like like let me pay more attention, because like I really don't know how this is all going to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I really liked the score, especially in the beginning when like the first ghoul strikes. That scene's also like super disturbing. Just like, you know, between her brother being attacked and like getting knocked on the ground, and then her just like relentlessly being chased and like trying to get away, and it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
very stressful, and then everything is just really enhanced by the score. And I think the score is like good throughout the film, but like the beginning really did stand out to me, of like just kind of really being aligned with what's happening. Because I I made a note that I just wrote sound effect when mother is killed. What the fuck?
Right. So insane. Yes.
Yeah, just like a lot of really intense sound design in this.
Very much.
I really think that Barbara's representation of shock was like pretty accurate. Like it is clear that like she she responded to what was happening in the moment of like her brother being attacked. That is her brother, right? Just
Yeah.
confirming that was her brother. At first I was confused, and I was like trying to kind of pick up on like what their relationship was, and then I just jumped to that conclusion.
Totally.
So I'm glad to hear that I'm right.
Yep.
There were a lot of like I had to like those pieces where it was like they didn't seem like brother and sister up front, and then they like it sounded like she was upset that they had to see like her dad, or he was upset they were going to see her dad, like in the and then the context clues came, and I was like, okay, not that like
Yeah.
I need to know, but like I do, like I need to know what these characters' relationships are and whatnot. It was like very wishy washy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, so like between everything that happens and like her kind of like body is in fight or flight, and so she's like running to safety. She gets in the car, she like can't actually drive it, but she's able to like figure it out. And then as soon as she gets into the house, she's just kind of like done, like spent. Like all of her energy has like now left her catatonic in the wake of like what just happened, so that when she does encounter Ben, like she's not able to react to him, because she's still in shock. She's still like total crisis mode. I thought that was super realistic. And then the way that she like recounts what just happened, and she's like retelling it exactly the way that it happened, and like the things that she pulled out of the like what happened, quotes that her brother said, stuff like that, also felt like very real. Just like again, her the like come down from adrenaline is just very intense, and I think that she does a really effective job in like she's kind of stuck paralyzed there for like a good chunk of this movie after that. And I think that that's believable, and like seeing that in in contrast to Ben being very action oriented, way more in like fight mode, and like that's where his adrenaline is like fueling. Like he's like, I'm surviving this, I would like you to survive this too, like let's both kind of be on the same page and like make moves together. But is also like understandably frustrated when she's just not really able to. But I think he also then, after she like recounts what happened to her, is a little bit more empathetic and compassionate towards like what state she's in, and kind of leaves her alone, which I also really appreciated. It's like she's not going to be helpful to you in this moment. Like once he recognizes that, he's not really like forcing her to do a whole lot until like, you know, when they come up with their plan. So I think all in all, like I felt like there's still a lot of overacting that's happening in this movie. That being said, I think that like this idea of like an incredibly traumatic thing happens, our adrenaline kicks in, we get to safety, but like we can't keep that state going. It's very temporary and acute and short term, that like once we are then in a space where like we are safe for now, that like the body then is like fully taking over of like, yeah, we're shutting down. There's nothing else happening here right now. And like that
For
feels
sure.
very real. I was pretty surprised at the plan failing miserably.
Sure.
I like, I was like, okay, like they also spent so much time on it that I was like, okay, I think they can actually like get to safety. They're spending a lot of time on like, oh, you know, these like the people are kind of like making their way through the towns and trying to find,
Right.
you know, like people who are not yet affected. We can save them. And then like everything's kind of coming together of like, we can come up with this plan. And then like fucking chaos strikes like immediately. And when that truck blows up, I was just like, holy shit. Like I just wasn't expecting that to happen. And then like the tone of like all the characters just drops so significantly. Like it's so devastating when like you really think that you have a solid plan and have everything worked out, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And like that was like I like felt that. It was just like you have so much hope, and then like hope dies just like that. And I thought that too, like they really didn't have any other plan. Like that was it. So it was it like you really feel it, I feel, as the audience, of just like how hard that hit. And then the power goes out, and it's like, oh my God, like everything, it just like escalates so quickly after the plan goes downhill. But I also kind of liked that because like I think it just made everything feel a little bit more real. Like the threat is real. They only have so much time. This is really the only plan that could probably work for them. They have no idea how many more ghouls are going to come and like surround them. So it just feels real that like there isn't really some other miraculous way to survive this. Like it's just, that's just what it is. And like I appreciate, even though again, like I don't like films that end sadly, and I'll get to that, but I do appreciate like kind of taking a situation that's, you know, zombies we can assume aren't real. You know, who knows what, maybe
good to know.
I'll take that back in the future. But like I feel like a lot of other zombie situations there is, or like films and media, there's still some element of hope, because like, you know, I feel like it's always, the thesis is always like, this is what humanity is driven to in times of crisis, but like there's still hope in humanity. And I feel like this was kind of like, nar.
Sorry about it. Just kidding.
It was just like, oh wow, what a bummy. But I think that the way that they executed it was like very effective, and like, yes, it made me sad and upset, but I don't know. I just think that like the realism of the direness of the situation, and like not pulling a magic plan out of anyone's ass at that point, like I was like, okay, like we've already established all of this stuff, it is what it is, so like I shouldn't really expect something magical to happen here.
Right.
And I did like that. That being said, man, gripiest gripe, Harry sucks. He sucks.
Harry sucks.
Harry is the worst.
Sucks. Like, why does he have such a hard on for this seller? Like,
even his wife hates
and why
him.
do you? Yeah, everyone hates him.
Everyone
It
hates
is clear
him.
that everyone hates him, and like, and I think that there's literally one comment. Like, we get this whole interaction of him sucking and being like, well, we weren't going to come upstairs because we didn't know what all the commotion was. And my cellar's the best cellar, and everyone should listen to me and come into my cellar. And it's like, oh my fucking God. Like, who cares if no one wants to go into the cellar with you? Like, if you love the cellar so much, why don't you fucking marry it? And the one comment that his wife makes is just like, you just have to be right, don't you? And I was like, wow. It's so wild that we get his character on his own without anybody needing to say anything. And that one line just like immediately I was like, wow, okay. I was totally annoyed by him, but like her just acknowledging that's really what the sticking point was, because I was like, why the fuck does he care so much about everyone being in the fucking cellar? I don't
Yeah.
care. Like, get over yourself. But like,
That
it's
was
not about the plan. It's about
Yes.
he has to be in charge, and he has to be, this is my plan, and you all have to listen to me. And her just clocking that in that moment and like being so annoyed by him was a great moment, even though I detested Harry.
On that note, like one of my likes is the Harry felt like a character that you would write in the 80s or 90s from a movie that takes place in the 60s. Like Harry feels like that character that you're like, this is the massive
Like
this is the Biff character, this is the bully, this is the the misogynist like stereotype of the 60s. And we would just like accept it. But the fact that this was written in the 60s and the wife says that line, that's important for you to be right and everyone to be wrong. Just to me, it just said so much about like that's the moment, even though it's like halfway through the movie, maybe a quarter of the way through the movie, that's the moment where I trusted this movie, where this movie felt like it, not the black lead character, not like just the concept, but that intimate moment and the relationship between Harry and his wife. She's still semi-subservient to him because like that's still the time period, but that line just like layered this movie so much more than I thought it was going to be, and it just showed how Romero really had a handle on this script with his writing partner, and I just like totally dug that.
Yeah, agreed. I also like the line, the paraphrasing, but she was just talking about, I know we don't live well together, but we're not going to die here together. I was like, thought that was great. Yes.
But yeah, man, Harry sucks. The line I wrote after is, I hope his daughter eats him.
There you go.
Yeah, he would. I just like really couldn't handle him. I also made the note, man, the cellar's the hot spot after all that cellar talk.
And everybody ends up back in there. I put that in my notes too. Yes.
R.I.P. Barbara. Okay, so so a moment before the end of this movie happened, I was like, oh God, I know what the fuck is going to happen at the end of this stupid movie. And just like got really upset again. But it did that. So then I was like, fine, I've accepted. I'm in stage 5 of grief acceptance. I've accepted that like he's not going to survive. What I was not expecting is I couldn't watch the credits. I straight up like covered my eyes and I was like, Brian, I need you to turn the credits off because I can't watch this anymore. Like that disturbed me so much. Like viscerally, I was like, I can't handle this. Even though I was like, I'm gonna be so pissed that this is what's gonna happen after all of this. But like, yeah, just the I know you were talking in the beginning about like, you know, seeing Black actors in films and like what the experience was. But I then was just like brought back to that where I was like, why do we have to watch? Why does it have to be him? Like, why can't you just take all of the other bodies and just show us them treating them in this way? Why does it have to be his body? And I literally like couldn't watch it. So I just wanted to be totally transparent that I couldn't watch the credits of this movie. I wrote big ol' ugh at the ending, and then I was like, credits are a no for me. I like just can't watch that.
I think it's because it's something about like how realistic the pictures seemed. Like because it's from the time period, and you know, and I think also what gave me, it was very disturbing, and I put that in my notes as well, just to piggyback off of that. I think it was disturbing that also the dialogue kept going as the credits were rolling, and then the pictures are coming up, And then when I see like the men with the hooks, I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
this
that was, I was like, I
unnecessary.
Like, shut this down. Yeah.
you
I could,
don't
I
need
don't
to have
know
that.
why I didn't just like get up and walk out of the room. I just was like, I just need this to be off right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like really, and then I was like thinking more about like, okay, like what are they trying to say now? Like
Well-
we got through this entire movie and now I don't know. It just made me more confused then. Were you
Yeah.
going to say something, Brian?
Because this movie was not written for the lead character to be black. This movie was written, and then Romero was criticized for hiring a black actor to play the lead. And Romero's only comment that I've read is like, he had the best audition. Like, I wasn't going to not cast him. So, what I find interesting about this movie, and I, as we all know, if you listen to this podcast, as the two of you know, I love social commentary in a horror movie. That's when I really connect with it. Like the end of this movie was like devastating. I knew it was coming because I had been spoiled. I knew what happened at the end of this movie. But there are a couple things that I did not realize were going to happen. One, I think it's really interesting that they shoot him through the window. It's not like he came out and gave himself up and they shot him. That, to me, that's the most interesting thing about this, because then you as an audience member have to think through, like, they just heard the sound in the house. They just assumed that someone had been taken over by a ghoul or whatever, a zombie. So like there's that. And then the way that the white men just treat the bodies in general, with the black man's body kind of up front in those images. That all being said, if Romero had hired a white actor to play the Ben character, obviously the ending would have still been like, effective, because you see people like burying, like, taking the hooks and moving the bodies and burning them with the idea of like you're casually destroying these bodies, these people, burning these people while you're kind of trying to move on, is a very different effect than the black body there. So I understand why there's kind of a confusing message at the end, where then like all of a sudden it's this like weird like like slavery like plantation kind of analogy, when like the rest of the movie like kind of doesn't follow that at all. And I think that's and I think that's effective because of the imagery, but like I don't think it totally makes, and I don't know the history of this movie outside of the very generic things that I mentioned, but like this arc that this character goes through, especially because none of the movie, even like Nikisha said, even like recognizes that there's no line that's like get out of here, that type of thing. It's all just like it could have been played by anyone, which I think is super cool in its own right, that he just decided to cast that, and by casting that character it changed the end of that movie. But I know I'm repeating myself, but it doesn't necessarily narratively or like allegory wise kind of makes sense, because it wasn't written to be one, but it just happened to be one based on who they cast in it. And that's not an excuse, nor that is not an offense of it, but like I felt very similarly to you, Jamie, in that like this is effective, but like did this kind of make sense or not, from like what they were trying to say. And I just attribute it to the fact that like they were and they weren't at the same time.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, because I think what you're saying is right, Brian. I think when you're doing a movie like this in that time period too, it's like you still have to be, it's great that it could be any role, but you still have to take into account that you then hired a black person. So
Yep.
what does that mean
Bingo.
for the end? That means that certain things, it's going to come up as a black and white thing,
Totally,
even though you didn't mean it to. So now that part has to change, so that you really are taking into consideration that this has nothing to do with like you said, social commentary on the issue. So it's twofold. It's like, yes, hire whoever is the best for the job, great, it happens to be a black person, but then you need to take stock of how you wrote it and how you're filming it, and make sure that in that there's not any of those bits and pieces of the racial social commentary of it all. That's all.
Yeah.
But I agree with that, Brian.
No,
Totally.
I 100% agree with you. And it's just like you have like how can you not be aware of that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
there's all kinds of
Exactly.
things that can go into why I assume people aren't aware. But
Yes.
but yeah, it was like the first, like I was like, wait, what? It was the first thing I thought of. So I'm just like, great. I'm glad that you hired the best person for this role, but you can't go into this just completely lacking any kind of like social awareness and like
Yeah.
that just
Because
that feels really negligent to me.
it does. Because also
Sure.
like they're not even people of color that are zombies, that are ghouls. You know what I'm saying? Like there are
Mhm.
no
I was trying
extras.
to. At first, I didn't even see women. Like it took a while before women even showed up, and I was like trying to
Exactly.
look through, and I was like, "Are there women?" And I was like, "Okay, oh well, of course she has to be naked."
There's the butt.
So thank you, yeah, exactly. Thank you, film, for confirming that there are women zombies.
Right. But it's like you
There's
literally
the
like
butt.
this person is the only black person in the entirety of the whole thing.
And
So yeah.
I don't know the history of this movie as well as I'm sure some people do and whatnot. I
Mm.
wonder if the how they did the credits changed based on like who they cast. Like I wonder if that was a choice that they also made. I don't know, but
Mm.
clearly like the script was not changed because like when I see musical revivals where they cast a main character as a different race in a time period where like they couldn't fall in love with the main character and not be ridiculed
Yes.
for it. It doesn't matter how wonderful the actor is. It doesn't matter how wonderful their voice is. Like I'll listen to that album over and over again, but something feels off when I'm watching a historical drama, even if it's a musical, when they're not being treated uh any differently than a white character. It just feels disingenuous when it's a period piece. And like
Yes.
and that just even I just there's like that one I just can't give myself fully over because the point of certain shows, especially if it's like a Rodgers and Hammerstein show, when they were so socially conscious, specifically like if you're looking at like um you're looking at Oklahoma and you're looking at things like South Pacific, like all of that stuff, like I totally understand. Like it can't be left out. Like we shouldn't just be doing these revivals anymore. We should be writing new stuff for characters that like,
Yes.
but like that's a whole different can of worms that we,
Sure.
like, but like
No, but
that's
agreed,
kind of how
for
I
sure.
felt a little bit with this, where it was like, yeah. So that if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Definitely does.
Yeah.
Jamie, do you have any more likes and gripes?
I think that was it. I
Okay.
really I did really like this movie. I see why. I mean, like I can't imagine. It's so funny every time like we talk about something that's like iconic when it comes out. It's like I can't imagine like being in this time period and like seeing something like this for the first time, and it's just like
Mhm.
people's minds must have been blown, or like they must have like fallen out of their chairs or just been like, oh
Mhm.
my god, like I just we're so used to like the extremes of things that we see now that like I
Yes.
cannot fathom like the idea of them seeing body parts being consumed and like talking about cannibalism.
Sure.
Oh, yes. And in 68. I mean, yeah, just such
Yeah.
a time.
Wild.
It's so interesting to think about that
Mhm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Because even now, I mean, I will say some of the like eating of the body parts was still pretty kind of disgusting.
Yeah,
you know?
the gore in this
they
was
like spend a lot
good.
of time just like eating intestines, and I was just like, all right, we get it. They yum, okay.
Yum.
Please.
And for all the makeup and stuff, like obviously
Mhm.
some didn't look like zombies and some did, but like I like that there was a range, and I like that the first one we saw like didn't totally look like a zombie or a ghoul, and like the
Yeah.
more you go through the movie, the more the the rancid ones show up and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great word. Rancid.
Rancid.
I love that word. Okay. Brian, would you like to go with your likes and gripes?
Yeah, sure. So this was my first time seeing Night of the Living Dead, and I had known that this was like the original zombie movie, but I truly did not know how much of a blueprint this is that has not changed. Like
Mm-hmm.
this blueprint of this movie is zombie movies forever. It's not like
Yes.
Halloween or Black Christmas where you get pieces of the slasher genre that's building up. Like this is a fully formed and realized zombie genre movie. It is well acted, it is well edited, it is deeply engaging. It shows the gore. It has diverse protagonists. You know, you have Barbara the female, you have Ben the black male protagonist, you have a group of people on one night in basically one location being taken out one by one as they find out what's happening. You have people within that group differing on what the plan is. And it's just truly incredible that in 1968 this was completely fully realized, and like there's no way to go but up here. People change the formula and tweak it here. Fast zombies in a different location, different reasons why this is all happening, like
Yes.
different types of characters. But realistically, like this is the zombie genre and it's truly incredible, and I was blown away by just how fully realized this is.
Yeah.
um so that definitely like excuse me, that was pretty amazing. um I also would say that this movie has one of my absolute favorite, I really liked it, by the way, I don't know if I said that. This has one of my favorite horror movie visual cliches: a car driving on an empty road as the credits roll at the beginning. I love that. I
Yeah.
just think that like, and it happens in so many like, it happens either in the credits or like at some point during the movie. I just think it's spectacular. Um, I really liked the beginning of this movie. Outside of like how are these two related? I really like the beginning of this movie. I really like that their conversations happen as if they've already had the beginning of the conversation on the road. So a lesser movie would have been like, Barbara, like the radio's broken. I can't believe it. Like that type of thing. When the conversation in this movie is like him basically being like, oh, I heard a little bit on the radio, but it's been like they had already talked about the radio being broken. And I appreciated that,
Mm-hmm.
like it was just a continuation of that conversation, even though we didn't see the beginning of that conversation. Like a normal conversation would go. um I understand why this is an iconic opening sequence. It was great. It was really great. um
Yeah.
it's done better than most of the ones that maybe are contemporary and based on it. Like it's great. With the car driving and then her screaming and running and then hiding behind the gravestones and like the brother fighting with the zombie and like just really great. I was surprised to find out that this was going to be one continuous narrative where we keep meeting characters as we go along. It
Mm.
felt very um uh like second Purge movie, even though that's kind of cut together. Like I love the nights where like people join your group and leave your group, but you're just looking at it through like one pathway. I appreciated that.
For sure.
I think that the melodramatic tone with the acting and the score, like Jamie had mentioned, is just perfectly matched all together. Um, I loved the radio reports. I thought one of my biggest pet peeves about zombie movies is the amount of time that we spend with like, it's not real, it is real, it's not real. Like we know it's real. Like
Mm.
let's get moving. I never felt it with this one. Everyone accepted that something crazy was happening. We were just learning with them what was happening with the radiation. The radio reports were great. Also, at some point they said, quote, they're slayers. Man, I just loved a lot of the vocabulary that was in the media at this time in this movie. I did like, and we talked about it a little bit, that the undertone of racism is there, but not in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusively. I dug that for multiple reasons, which all of which we've talked about. And Nikisha brought up first, kind of like it was nice to just like watch him be a confident black man who was trying to help everybody, who was
Mm-hmm.
no nonsense, all business. I just really appreciated that. Oh man, I love the part when Harold just lists everybody. Like, how are we gonna get out of here? And he just starts like listing everybody. And Ben and
Mm-hmm.
Harold's fight was great. I just thought that this movie was really real well done. And like, there was stuff in here that you see from like Evil Dead with like the taxidermy and like little pieces taken and then just creating something different. But like this still is the formula. I thought it was great.
Yes.
Some gripes about this movie. We talked about the ending, not my gripe. I thought it was interesting that they shot him through the window, and I just expect him to come outside and like give himself up and then just like shoot him anyway. I think that shooting him through the window makes this movie even more complex, because did they do it on purpose? Did they care? And then that credit sequence allows us to put our own like social baggage onto the situation, and I appreciated that, even though like we just had that conversation, so I won't repeat
For
it.
sure.
My favorite moment in this, it's a gripe that I agree with, which is Barbara talking about the daylight savings at the beginning. Yeah, I get it. Why like it's 1968? Why are we still switching the clocks? What are we doing, people?
Why?
You tell him.
Yeah. I in all caps I wrote, just fucking talk to each other. Like, what are we doing here?
Yes.
Oh man, when he hits Barbara and then Barbara passes out, like that was just like a lot.
Oh my god, that was wild.
Yeah.
That
And
was
then
a lot.
that was a lot. And you know what? And also in a movie that is overtly tackling racism, that would have been other white characters probably would have seen that and then labeled him as aggressive or something like that, when that was not the case in this movie. Huge pet peeve about this movie. When Ben burns the chair and then like kicks it off of the porch, that was too close to the porch. You like you were gonna burn the deck down and then the house down before you even defended it. That was too close,
Yeah.
Ben. You had to like, and you, in my opinion, you had to actually like put the kerosene on it, then kick it for much further away, and then throw
light
the
it.
thing. Then
That
yeah,
was like the same when they were throwing the Molotov cocktails. I was like,
Yeah.
you're getting
It's too
real
close
close
to
to
the
the
car.
truck.
Yeah, he
that you're
was-
trying to escape with.
totally.
Yes.
He might as well just like roll the lit Molotov cocktails down the roof, like, and get it stuck
Right.
in the gutter and then burn them all to hell. But you know,
Oh my god.
but now we know, for our zombie defense, we know what and what not to do every
on the
time we
list.
watch a film. Put it
Yeah.
on the list.
Just get someone who can
Yes.
really throw distance. You
Yeah,
like distance.
distance,
Oh,
totally,
for sure.
absolutely. We'll make sure that we get an NFL quarterback in our pod for the zombie.
Oh, for sure.
apocalypse.
Absolutely.
It didn't bother me as much in this one, but like, what are the ghoul rules? I needed to know.
Ghoul rules.
The ghoul
Mhm.
rules, ghoul rules. But this was I actually think they did a fine job, because those close-ups of like showing them like with the bullets in their head, and that's when they go down versus getting like, I
Yes.
thought it was totally, I got it. And I would imagine that people in 1968 got it too.
Yeah.
I wrote, "Shut the fuck up, you cellar jabroni." Like, no one wants to hear about the basement anymore.
Oh my god, shut up.
Cellar
about the
jabroni.
basement, you jabroni.
Oh man, the very end with Harold and Karen, and the wife is just all over the place. That was insane. I didn't love the sound effect with the child screaming in that moment. That was weird and felt like completely out of place sound wise with a really well edited sound movie.
Yeah.
And at first, I was really the ending. I was taken out of it completely when it started doing these freeze frames, which feels very like late '60s, early '70s movies, with the framing of it and freezing it and all of that. But it worked effectively for what they were potentially trying to do with their analogy, with their allegory here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here are my quotes from this one. I think you complain just to hear yourself talk. Great line.
Yes.
This is no Sunday school picnic. Great line. And then that's important for you to be right and everyone to be wrong. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot. You know what I looked up,
Yes.
though?
Oh.
Did you know that if you do not include The Last of Us, this is only our second zombie movie that we've covered in all of talking horror.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what the other
Oh,
one
wow.
is?
Zombie movie that we've
Zombie.
covered.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've only covered one other one. And it's not a major zombie movie. We've never. I was like, have we even covered? I had to look it up because I didn't even remember that
Right.
we even covered a zombie movie. But this one's not known per se as a zombie movie. It's known as something else. I'll say.
Oh, the musical one.
Yeah, Anna and the Apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
That's the
so
only
lame.
other zombie movie we've covered. Isn't that wild?
That's
Oh,
so lame. Are we
wow.
even a horror podcast?
I don't know.
Right.
Turn in our horror badges.
Well, we watch them. We like zombie movies, and we've talked.
And we
Walking
talk about
Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
Do you wait? Can I ask a random question? Do you feel like the zombie genre has become oversaturated? It's not an open-ended question. I realize my therapy brain is broken, so I don't have any left.
Possibly.
I don't think so.
Possibly. The good ones are great. The bad ones are bad and repetitive.
There's
Fair.
like no real in between. It's like either
No middle ground,
incredible
yeah.
or terrible. But like I don't know. There was a while where I was really into zombie stuff, and then I think I got over it. Maybe because there was a lot more bad ones than good ones.
Sure.
But I've kind of like lost my overwhelming desire to like catch every zombie movie.
Yeah, there are tentpole ones. There are ones that are like, oh, I'm getting sick of this. Whoa, this was good and different. Like, to me, those are like 28 Days Later, Train to Busan, the first season of The Walking Dead, or the first like two. I would put The Last of Us in there, like as a take on the zombie genre.
Sure.
But I'm like, I don't need like the Army of the Dead stuff. Like, it's fun, but like it's not like it's fine. But like not Army of the Dead. That kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that like I really think it's hit or miss, and the great ones really rise above, and the great ones do something unique and different. And maybe that's due to oversaturation. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just like make a good movie and I'll watch it, even if you use it. Oh, Shaun of the Dead's another one that is like a tentpole great one of late.
You mean I Am Legend is not on your list of great zombie?
I'm sorry.
I like that movie.
I like
Listening
that
to
movie
dog,
too.
Though, don't talk to me.
Sure.
Whew.
I Am Legend is ruined with the CGI.
Fair.
That like fully, it's so bad it fully takes me out. And I know you can argue like you like one ending better or the other ending better. But like, you know, we should cover that when the new one comes out.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say there's a new one. So yeah, we should cover
Yeah,
it.
there's a new one of that, and then they're doing the new
So many things.
28 years later.
Right.
Oh yeah, that
my God.
one.
Well, we should cover
more
the
excited
two
about.
28 days later and 28 weeks later, just because we should
Alright.
cover those. They're so good.
Alright.
Great.
I think I've only watched half of 28 Days Later. I don't think I fully watched all of it.
Really?
Oh,
Although some people would argue that it's
man.
not a zombie movie, but they can just like go back into their.
Eat a fat fart because
Yeah.
they're wrong.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that when we do it. We'll discuss if it's actually technically a zombie movie or not, like that type of thing.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it is. I need you to know that it is.
Great. Nikisha, your likes and gripes?
Yes. Well, Brian, to your point about rules and zombies, I guess because I have been oversaturated with certain types of zombies, I was really coming back and watching this again. I was like, these zombies are fast, and they're like, they have some type of cerebral like stuff happening.
Yeah,
because
they work
for it
together.
for them to,
Yeah.
like
I thought that
for them
too.
to pick up a brick and throw it to get through the thing. I was like, that's smarter than the
a
zombies.
lot of
that
other
I have
ones. Yeah, totally.
So I was just kind of like, oh, okay. But a lot of this stuff you guys have already said. I love the off center shots, like when Barbara is running and sees the house, but the house is kind of off to the right, and what you're
Mhm.
really seeing in the forefront are like the trees, and you kind
Yeah.
of have to look for the house and be like, oh, that's what she's looking at. She's looking at the house. I just thought that was a really cool shot.
Agreed.
I think I'm enjoying black and white movies more because of the extreme contrast of light and dark with them is really interesting to me, especially with horror movies. I just thought that it was when she got into the house and there was just a lot of like light dark contrast with it on top of being a black and white movie that was just fed into the tone for me that I liked.
Yeah.
Also commented on the scores that the score is like super intense with like less dialogue, and then it has like the standard a loud noise is the jump scare
Yeah.
type,
Sure.
thing. I but also in 60s fashion too, I don't know if it was just like a missed shot, but when Ben is hitting one of the zombies with like a tire iron, I think, or something, like some metal, like whatever. But he's like hitting it, but you can see that he's clearly hitting the side of
sure.
so that he's not hitting the person.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you could just put the camera up just a little bit more so that you don't see the fact that he's not hitting this person. I thought that was very interesting. Love a man with a plan is what I put. Walk with me for a second. A remake of this movie, but with Sterling K. And Bryce Dallas Howard.
I'm into it.
Interesting.
I think it could work.
So
Interesting.
here's a fun fact about this movie. There was an error when they were titling the original film, so it entered into public domain upon its release. So that's why there have been like numerous adaptations and remakes of this movie, because like it was in the public domain by accident, and the official remake was in 1990, written by Romero and directed by Tom Savini. But this movie I think has 5 direct sequels to this, all directed by Romero. I also would say this is my first time ever seeing like a Night of the Living Dead movie. I've never seen any of Romero's movies or any of that. That just wasn't my
I didn't realize there were so many sequels.
Wait, but do you know who played Ben in the remake that George Romero made?
I do. Oh, I do know. I do know because I looked it up when I was. I'll let you say it, but I do know because I looked it up when I was doing.
You can say it. I just looked it up now.
Oh, Mr. Candyman, Tony Todd.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I was like, holy cow.
Like 2 years before he played the Candyman, Mr. Man.
The man, Mr. Candyman.
Yes.
How many more times can we say it?
No, well, we've already. No, we're done. No.
Oh, okay, we can't say it anymore.
No more. Tony Todd, got it. Yes. My favorite quote is, "You can be the boss down there. I'm the boss up here." Absolutely, sir.
Yes.
Excellent.
Such a great quote. To the point. Love it. It's great. Also,
he really responds to Harry like in a great way. Like he's very much not like, this isn't like a dick measuring contest between the two of them where like it feels like that's what Harry's trying to do, and he's just like,
right,
no, like your plan is stupid. You're stupid, and we're not doing it. Like he's just like, I'm just shutting you down. You need to shut up, sir.
Right. Like I'm thinking about the collective here. I don't know what you're thinking about, but like we're trying to figure out a way out of here.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So good. But I also love, again, how we talked about everyone ends up back in the cellar anyway.
I know.
End. So, it's so crazy. I also felt in some places that people were just moving at such a slow pace, but like I've never been in a zombie apocalypse, so I don't know like how I would maneuver.
You haven't?
But I know I'm waiting for my turn. But when the wife was trying to like fend off her daughter, I'm like, it's a little girl. And then like the girl comes up to Ben and Ben just like shoves her out of the way and, and just
Yeah.
keeps running.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's so good. Yes, and then also we talked about the ending. And I thought that it was very disturbing how the credits were rolling with the pictures and the dialogue of like, yeah, let's put the bodies here and then we'll burn them over there and blah blah, blah,
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't give you time to process what's happened, and I think that's probably why it's more disturbing.
Yeah.
Because you're not sitting with it. Because usually, your credits are rolling, and you're sitting with what just happened. But like the credits are rolling and things are still happening,
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of like, wait, what? And it's over. It's just a lot happening
Yeah.
at once. But yeah, overall, I enjoy this movie. I understand why it's such a staple. And I had a good time watching it again. And I kind of want to get back into watching like some more black and white movies. So that might.
I want to watch all the.
Might I interest you in black and white The Mist?
True.
Let me find it.
I do want to watch. I want to rewatch all the Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
That's gonna be good. Yes.
Yeah.
So good. Fantastic. Well, should we move on to the next segment?
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right. Let's get into our next segment. Brains. In this case, it's true. So many brains.
Delicious.
Yeah, very.
So little time.
We have a whole segment named after zombie movies.
Zombies.
And it's only our second one.
This is our only second.
Embarrassing.
I mean, love it, love it, love it. Yes. Well, Jamie, you kind of already answered one of my questions in your likes and gripes, just talking about Barbara and if you believed in like her journey of her trauma and the hysterics and like the freezing and then yes. So I won't bother you with that again.
You can always bother me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Cancers for life. So my next question is, let's talk about Ben and Harry. And my question to you is, do you think that their plan would have worked better or their survival rate would have increased if they were to just pick one or the other's plan, regardless of if one was obviously better than the other? Because it just seems like their demise was in the fact that they had this conflict and this confrontation and they weren't able to kind of come together. And even when they did with the car situation, it was still kind of like Harry kind of plotting to be like, okay, when can I like get the gun and then just like get my people to safety. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's hard to know, like, there's a part of me that thinks that they did choose a plan and like they did commit to something, but it just didn't work. And so like I think after, because the plan was to get gas in the truck and escape via the truck, and then that plan went to shit, and then they didn't really have any other plan at that point. And I think that they were just all feeling so demoralized that there wasn't really any, I mean, like at that point then like factions are splitting and they're no longer like able to be on the same page. But even before that, I don't know if it's their inability to compromise on a plan, but there's the moment where Ben's trying to get back inside when the plan has failed, but Harry has locked the door and like isn't letting him in, and he's able to get into the house, and then like he's looking at Harry like, help me, and then he does reluctantly help him, but then that creates like the tension. Once they're safe again, then Ben is like, the fuck, essentially. So like there is that moment. But yeah, like I don't know. I also like what would the plan have like reasonably looked like if Harry was not willing to compromise? Like then really there's only one plan, and that plan was do what Harry wanted. and Ben had already established that like it wasn't a good plan. Like that's not a plan.
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I think that like I think Ben's position was like, I'm trying to think about the most likely scenario for me to survive.
For sure.
Harry's position was, I need to be in charge and right. And I think outside of like the one plan that they did successfully come up with that didn't end up actually working, that there wasn't really any other way for them to like move forward after that, especially after that like moment of betrayal of like Ben being locked out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, and what was the point of that? It's like there wasn't a slew of them like coming towards him. Like he could have easily just let him in and then close the door, you know? Like
I think he was just like, again, see, like he already didn't like Ben because Ben was defiant openly, outwardly against him. And so like there wasn't even like a witness to him locking him out. I think at that point he just was like, I don't like him. Like he was just being a piss baby.
Piss baby, of course.
Well, to that, sorry, what'd you say, Brian?
No, I just said yes, of course, a piss baby.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, to that point of being a piss baby, you've already kind of elaborated on this as well, but if you have any more words to add to this, my question was, do you think that Harry is just a stubborn human being that just didn't want to listen to people and was only thinking about himself surviving? Or do you feel like his tactics with trying to stay in the cellar was genuinely to help his wife and kid?
I don't really think he cared about his wife. I don't know if I believe that he cared about his kid, but I think he used his wife as just like a pawn in him trying to like prove his point. But I don't think that he actually gave a shit about, at least definitely not about her. Maybe about his daughter, but like again.
So he can be put in the bad husband, bad boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
Pile.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're adding Harry to the list.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He stinks.
He's a what? Piss baby.
He's a piss baby. Heard it here first, folks.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, that's all the questions I had. Because, you know, Jamie being Jamie, she already is clocked in on all things mental health in the movie, so she's already explained so much. So, should we rotten tomatin this?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right. What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes? Jamie, let's go with you.
91.
All right, Nikisha?
I was going to say 76.
It has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yay!
And the audience score is an 87%. And
Great.
the critics' consensus is George A. Romero's debut set the template for the zombie film and features tight editing, realistic gore, and a sly political undercurrent.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I believe that.
And what do you think this has on Letterboxd? As a reminder, it's 1 through 5 with decimal points. Nikisha, let's start with you this time. What do you think this has on Letterboxd?
I'm going to say a solid 4.0.
All right. And Jamie?
I'm going to say a 3.8.
All right. This has a solid 4.0.
Wow.
Yeah!
Rounded up from a 3.97.
Woohoo!
But excellent.
Any favorite comments?
Yeah, some good ones. I can't believe my first thought when all the zombies entered the house was, "Oh, I miss being in crowded spaces with friends."
Oh my god.
Dead. Yes.
And then someone wrote, "Old horror movies are so fucking cool, man. Nothing quite like them."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they fully commit which is what I enjoy too. Like
Mm-hmm.
the shots of Barbara on the ground, like
Mhm.
trying to slide away, and then like she throws her
Totally.
shoes and then gets up and starts running. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot to mention too, and we were talking about like blueprints, but I didn't realize like the similarities between how some of the zombie rules in this movie and in The Walking Dead, in the sense of like, even if you just die for whatever cause, you
Oh,
can
I
still come
thought
back to life as a zombie.
I thought the
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really cool, like, kind of calling back with the Walking Dead stuff too.
Totally.
Fantastic.
All
So
right.
let's do the 4 S's.
The 4 S's.
Yes.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
The 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. Skulls is how well this handles mental health and human behavior. Scares is how scary was this movie. And shakes is how much can you shake this off. We remember this for a long time. And then we'll do our suggestions. But Jamie, let's start with you with skulls.
Sure. I gave this a 6. Because again, I think that like there's a lot of very realistic, like driven human behaviors, and like again, I haven't been in a zombie apocalypse, but like I feel like there's a lot of like as realistic as a crisis can get, how people might respond, and yeah, so that's a 6. For scares, I gave this a 2. I and understanding that that's like in the now times, like as I
Sure.
was saying before, I imagine it probably would have hit differently. But I didn't find it like overly scary, but like the end I think is deeply disturbing.
For sure.
And shakes?
And then for shakes, I'm gonna change my score actively in real time. I'm gonna.
Whoa.
I think. Whoa. I think I'm gonna give this a 7, just because of like the historical importance that it has, and how many other things reference this. What this has created for like the zombie subgenre as a whole. Like Nikisha was saying, like the same rules still apply to this day, and like I mean there's very few iconic movies that like have that same type of like staying power in like that consistency. So yeah, I feel like I moving forward, I will think of this film and like bring it back to whatever other zombie things I'm going to be watching.
Nice.
Sure. Nikisha?
Yeah, my scores are so similar. I also gave it a 6 for skulls for the same reasons. I gave scares a 1 though, because yeah, it's not scary for me. And shakes, I gave it a 7 as well, because it's just such an important movie, and I think it definitely was well acted. I mean, Dwayne, yes, was definitely such an incredible actor in this. So I'm really happy that he got the part for this. It was very grounded, and it's very nice.
Yeah, I had this actually the same as you all. I had a 6 for skulls. I had a 2 for scares, and I had a 7 for shakes. So
Our brains are meshing together.
I know, right?
Ah!
Like that Evil Dead Rise monster.
Oh, the creature.
Yeah.
Yes.
My suggestion is just gonna be Candyman.
Nice. I mean, it's a good listen. Candyman all around. I have like 3, but we've already talked about some of them. I mean,
do it.
Get Out for obvious reasons. Black surviving, and also Apple gives me a thumbs up on this as well. You brought up The Mist, and I have that also just as like fucked up endings.
Sure.
So watch The Mist. Psycho for favorite black and white horror movie. And then if you just want to watch a doc, I already said Horror Noir for just all things black and horror.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. What about
Jamie?
you, Jamie?
I just went with like, what is another more recent zombie movie that I really enjoy? And you mentioned it earlier, 28 Days Later.
Nice.
Because it's a zombie movie. And if you disagree, then I'm going to fight you.
I'm ready to have that discussion. We gotta definitely put that on. When does 28 Years come out?
It's still in. They're not.
They're
even
just
close.
like talking about it. I think.
Yeah. So we'll do them whenever we
Okay.
want.
Fantastic.
Great. Cool.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our episode of Night of the Living Dead. You can follow us on all social medias: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Talk Horror Pod. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can, of course, watch us first on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you. Woo.
Yes. Brian, you want to leave us with a quote?
Yeah.
I have one. I missed it. It's when the daughter says, "I hurt."
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's a great one.
That's literally her one line.
That's her
I
one
hurt.
line. I wrote, "I hurt," quote, LMAO.
Yes.
Oh my god.
So good. So good. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.